Welcome to the Walk Around Podcast. Our goal is to share with you the insights, the skills, the processes, and the leaders that are influencing the retail automotive landscape today. I'm one of your hosts, Nick Funsch, as always, joined by Danny Vendrell. What's up, Danny?
How's it going, Nick? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hard to believe we're winding down August already in 2021. This year is flying by, isn't it?
Sure is.
Crazy. But I'm super excited about our guest today. We have Kyle Mountsier. Welcome, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to hang out.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. I want to let you kind of tell us a little bit about what you're passionate in with automotive. But real quick, Kyle has been in the automotive space for the last 12 years in every aspect, from fixed ops to variable ops, from marketing to process training. He's the founder of Contagious Auto and host of the Contagious podcast. So happy to have another podcaster with us. He has passion for supporting dealerships and dealer groups in their pursuit of excellence in their operation. He has a unique ability to connect people and processes that enable him to advise dealer principals, GMs, marketing directors toward the best operational efficiency. Did you write this, Gal? Somebody else write this? Maybe.
I may or may not have.
Whether you are looking at the newest or shiniest process or product, or looking to gain efficiency with your current marketing strategy, Kyle is ready and eager to help so that we can push the automotive industry forward together. He's a husband and father living in Middle Tennessee, soccer enthusiast, runner, and musician at heart. Danny, you want to start there?
Yeah, I mean, what's the deal? Musician, there's a lot of ways you could go. So what's the instrument? I mean, talk to us. What's going on here?
Yeah, so obviously the best thing to do when you're preparing to get in the automotive industry as a career is start as a music major. Right. So that was, I went to school for church music. I was a vocal church music major. So I sing, I learned to sing opera, and I can, do all that crazy stuff and sing in German and in Latin and all that. But I play guitar, and I can kind of get my way around most of your instruments. And I love leading worship at church and sharing that passion with my kids. And so, we're an artist family. My wife was a professional ballerina. So she does that kind of full time. She teaches still, but I'm not full time in music anymore, but I still love it. And I love my guitars. So, yeah.
Well, good thing we're on a podcast, because I don't want to see you practice any of those ballet moves, but see who teaches you. But before we were recording, Kyle, you were sharing a little bit about kind of three passions you have in automotive, kind of three big topics. What are those?
Yeah, well, and so let me back up, because if I don't talk about this every time that like more than three people can hear, then I'm doing everything that I believe in disservice. My big passion, my overall vision is that in the next, we'll call it 10 years, that the culture and way of doing business in the automotive industry is so dramatically different looking from a massive whole. Like, there's some great dealers and operators, and I've been a part of one for a long time that do an incredible job, but it's still a small subset. So, getting that across the industry in a much larger set, such that the perception of the industry from the outside looking in is dramatically different. And people actually want to come and do business with us, want to come work with us, want to start career paths out of college. Because if that's happening, then like, we know the customer experience is better, and we know automotive retail, specifically franchise, is not going away, which is kind of like the last 2 years of fear. And we can get away from that. We've got to make some drastic changes. So where I live then, in kind of like three sectors, is, technology, advancing innovation, technology, understanding that like automotive technology is about, maybe giving it a lot of grace, 8 years behind. And knowing that, so that's got to advance, knowing that our people and our culture, we've got to adjust and change. And then my big thing is like, I believe that the core, that the center of that can really come from really transformational internal marketing teams that drive brand, culture, the go-to-market strategy, the internal marketing strategy, and really make an impact on the business. So,
Yeah, so I love kind of what you said there about your kind of personal vision, passion, mission a little bit. And it made me think is like what good looks like is retail automotive no longer being the butt of the joke, right? Where it's like this
Yes.
friction point through that. And so
So, hey,
we're
real
yeah,
quick, I'll never forget. I'm maybe a year into the business, right? And I'm sitting in church, and I've led worship at this church, like play guitar, sing, lead guy, right? And the pastor is standing up, and in the middle of his sermon, and I mean, he knows I'm in car sales. I'm selling cars at this point,
right.
right? Not thinking, but it's just, it happens in our culture. And he goes, the people that lie and cheat and steal, like used car salespeople, lawyers, and he named like
Uh,
three things. I'm sitting there going, this is wrong. This is bad. This means there has to be a massive shift. So that's like, shoot, 11 years ago. And that
yeah,
was like the seed that was planted. And I remember going home and talking to my wife, and we're like on the drive home. And I'm like, that can't happen anymore.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we've come a long ways, still got a long ways to go. But I guess curious, just kind of give us the high levels, your experience in retail automotive. Sounded like you started selling cars and that kind of grew from there.
Yeah. So I started selling cars, did that for just over 3 years at three different stores because we moved from Florida to Tennessee. Moved into management roles, floor manager, new car director within the Nissan world. And then since then, I was with Nelson Mazda, Nelson Auto Group for the last 8.5 years
Mhm.
of being in the car business. And so in that have moved from finance director, sales manager, opening store with another manager, and BDC director, training director, to now, and what I would just came out of was marketing, business development, operations, a lot of systems technology. And so that recent role has given me the most big overview, right? Getting into parts efficiency, service efficiency, even into some of the accounting efficiencies that relate to sales and variable ops. And so I've gotten to experience it at multiple dealerships in multiple areas of and roles. And so that's the super high level.
That's awesome. And so that you spoke earlier about kind of your core three lanes there, and one of them was kind of believe that it all kind of stems from this marketing and kind of creating that brand and culture. And what does that mean to you, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So like the way that someone feels when they do business with you or work with you or for you, it has a massive impact on their loyalty,
Hmm.
right? Whether it be their loyalty as an employee or their loyalty as a client. And the way we make people feel is based on, how we emphasize our core values in our go-to-market strategy. And so, I'm a Simon Sinek, like, you know,
Yeah.
I wear the tattoos and the, all that type of stuff. Um, but it's like this really core why. And so often that comes from a really good marketing, you know, like strategy, and that's who typically goes deep like that, right? Most sales and fixed ops people they're like, who's the appointment at 3 o'clock, right? And so that marketing team has the ability to step back, look at that brand and vision alongside the owner or general manager or managing partner, and say, okay, what's the vision? How do we put that into words, into actions, into communication, both internally and externally? How do we express that from a brand strategy? How do we innovate around that strategy? And really has the ability, trained well, given the empowered to innovate, to structure communication, which, I mean, that's the C word, right? It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
relationship it is, whether it's an employee relationship, spouse relationship, client relationship. The best communicators are the ones that have the best, relationships. And so the marketing department is really the heartbeat of that communication for any brand or dealership.
Yeah, you said something there that was interesting around there's kind of this consumer brand, but then there's this internal brand with your teams in the stores too. And you know, a good marketing campaign connects with the consumer and makes them want to do business with you as a dealership. But I think the next level of that is, or whatever you're marketing, are your employees empowered to actually do it? And so if you're customer first, but then the minute a customer has a pain point within your dealership, are you you're either validating your brand, or you're eroding your brand to your employees? And it's just, I think, an interesting thing to think about is how that kind of, because that reinforces the culture, right, for the employees.
Yep. Yeah, I would say, like, in my opinion, the two most tightly knit departments in a dealer or group, and depending on how they're structured, needs to be the marketing and training departments, right?
Mhm.
However, that marketing or training is structured, those two need to be just step in step. Um, because if they're not, then like we're training something that's different than we're telling our customers, or what our brand looks like to our employees. And it doesn't match up. And then what's it's actually more important that it matches up to your employees, because when they begin believing what you believe, and they can say it as a self statement instead of a we statement,
Yeah.
then it becomes a lot stronger. Right. And so then every customer that interacts with your brand, your front line of your brand, is getting your brand through a self-aware belief, you know, and that's when your brand, that's when your culture becomes extremely strong and has the ability to go to market in that way. Instead of just being either internal or external, but it's a mesh of both.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like we make buying easy or some tagline like that. Then I'm thinking to myself, and certainly I've been there in my own experience, where that salesperson is having to go between the sales desk and the consumer, and they're sitting there like probably saying to themselves, like, we don't make buying easy. And that shows up to the consumer, right? I'm going back on the third pencil, trying to bump them for this or bump them for that. It's just interesting to kind of think about. Danny, what are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I love your point, Kyle, about like how can, when you look at the brand, you look at how that manifests itself in the culture and kind of the day to day. What's the dealer leader's vision? How is that kind of playing out in every day to day interaction, and letting those two things kind of work together through the training, through the way that you bring people in, through the way that you keep people skilled in what they do. Something that I'm curious about, I'm just taking notes as we're talking. It sounds like, for you, there's really this intersection between brand and culture. And then the third piece of that being kind of the technology and everything that the industry has gone through over the last year and a half. I think more than ever, the technology has really been accelerated as kind of the blocking and tackling of doing what we do. And some dealers do it better than others, but I guess for the purpose of where we're at now in the conversation, what should dealers be thinking about when it comes to kind of their culture, their brand, and then that last piece of technology?
Yeah, well, I love that you said the last piece, and not like, what technology are we going to get to fix this thing,
Yeah.
right? It's, what technology are we going to support this thing that we've built,
Mm,
right? And so, like, what my desire is for dealerships to go, hey, we built this really cool thing that we believe in. Who's the technology or vendor partner that matches that so closely that we actually don't have to shift barely anything for our people to utilize that? Therefore, adoption rates go up.
Hmm.
Right. And so, and I think what needs to happen, and I encourage tech partners in this all the time, is like, please don't be all things to all people, because you can't be. Not every dealership is going to operate the same way. But if you know that there are some dealerships that operate in this way, and you're building tech to empower them to operate in that way, then your adoption rates with them, your ability to retain clients from a tech perspective goes up, right? Then you're not like, a lot of tech companies, they actually have, they right now they have to come in and like essentially consult, right?
Right.
Hey, you don't know how to do this. You should do this. And sometimes that has to happen, right? Because it's a massive new idea that it's like, oh wow, we want to do that idea. We don't really know how to. Maybe we need to partner with this software or tech company to be able to do that. But by and large, it would be better to see that and then go back up 10 steps and go, okay, how do we recreate, retrain, innovate our processes, and then go, yep, now we match the technology, and the technology is available to support what we want to do. This is where like 90% of the dealers that hooked up with DR got it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And
what do you mean? So tell me what you mean by that. Meaning they were trying to just mesh a tool with and just kind of overlay it against their process, or they didn't find the tool that matched the process. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So they started with the right question, which is, what do customers want?
Yep.
So good job. Right. But then they said, instead of saying, what can we do? Like how do we shift? Right. They said, great, this is what customers want. There's a technology. We like it the best. Plug it in.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. So we have this new technology.
Right.
Let's try and dance around it real quick. And so again, adoption rates go down. It's not essential. It's not a core process in the business. It's seen as secondary. Not everybody's bought in, and it probably doesn't work right. And then all of a sudden we throw it out. We throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
In 90 to 120 days because it's not working or delivering enough things or showing increase. But it probably wasn't on the tech partner. It was probably on us as a dealer.
Yeah. Well, I love how you kind of frame that. Like, good. We started with what the customer is asking for, needs, in their transaction. But then that second question is, what are some things we can do without having to kind of take up the prescription, right? It's like going to the doctor and the doctor saying, you can either take this medication or you can lose 5 pounds, and lose 5 pounds is the better solution. Right. But so often we just want to take the prescription, which sometimes is those DR tools, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to I hate to beat the dead horse on DR because I feel like everybody has, right? But to take it out further, COVID hit and everybody was like, we need DR. And I'm like, so you've had it for just a hot minute. It's called a credit app, a payment calculator, and a trade tool, right?
Yep.
And instead of going, are we using those efficiently, and do our teams trained on those, and do they know how to communicate with customers that have already engaged with those platforms? Well, it's like, hey, let's slap another, X dollars, $1,000, $2,000 on our website, which is already costing us way too much, and hope that our customers like it more.
Yeah.
Right. Which they probably did. But then our employees weren't trained enough to go, well, if they like it more, then they communicated with us that way, then we need to communicate with them in this way, instead of going, now we got your DR lead. When do you want to come in? Yeah. and so that's how a lot of that in that specific instance, but that happens across the board. And so we have to back up, start with because what that really means is there's no core root why, there's no core values, there's no why are we going to, what do we believe that's so central to this buying or servicing process that then allows us to build processes and people management on top of that then can integrate technology that enables both our people and our customers to do business better together.
Well, and you actually double down on the friction point too in that environment, right? Because you've answered the question. Oh, the customer wants a better buying experience online. You haven't solved for kind of the in-store process, and so now they start the process and you create more friction. You're ending up back where you were trying to avoid, which is just it's interesting, right? But it's like technology doesn't solve the problem,
And please hear me on this. Well, I know we went DR. It's kind of like the hot topic over the last year, but I don't want to be I'm not like everybody needs to fix their process so they can do DR. That's not the point there. It's one of the pieces of this whole thing. But yeah.
Well, you talk, it's like vision, mission, strategy. Then you kind of have what are the tools to support that piece, right? And if you put the tool before the strategy a little bit, things can end up going a little haywire. So it's like, how does that ecosystem work, together? Which is, I think, what you're saying there, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So this year has been kind of a crazy year. Hell, it's longer than a year now. The last 18 months have been crazy. Retail automotive is super fun industry to be in. And this physical year, it's on fire right now. What are you seeing kind of out ahead? What are you preparing for as you think about kind of the how we should evolve in the retail space?
Yeah. So one, we do need to keep asking the question, what does the customer need and want? Right. We
Mhm.
have to keep that central. Um, because if we're not keeping that central, like it's all just talk, right? It's all just fancy new shiny objects. So one, we have to know that at its core. um Two, I think as I look out, it really is creating um really quality sticky brands, and loyalty inducing brands, because uh what the I hate this word, disruptors
Yeah.
in our industry are doing is creating sticky brands. I mean, yes, do they have technology to support it? Absolutely. Do they have, some new efficient processes? Yeah, but just like everybody says, every automotive dealership can do that too. But it's about, how do we communicate that? Why is it good for the customer? Why is doing business with us 8 times over the next 18 years and servicing with this dealership and doing that, why is that good for you as a person, and why are you going to align with that dealership, that brand's belief, right? And automotive is such a unique position when it comes to that, right? Because we have this like OEM, we have the franchise, which is a brand, and then we have the unique dealership franchise, which is also a brand. So we've got to carry that as marketing, as owners, general managers, dealer principals, alongside their marketing team. We got to carry that in both hands, and understand that the OEMs are doing some good things, even
Yeah.
though we like to fight them a lot from the franchise side, right? But I think that developing that type of strategy is really going to be what makes franchise automotive sticky.
Yeah.
um, and I think that we've got to figure out how to make it sticky, and how to make brand loyalists within our communities, to where they wouldn't do business anywhere else, because it's just not as good as doing business with the people and the processes and the strategy that is franchise automotive. And like you said, it's so fun to be a part of. Like,
I
there's
know.
so much good within the industry, and we all know it's like, someone said uh, um, at a mini conference that I was at a couple of months ago, that like Reynolds,
Right.
they have like one of the best uh, internal employee satisfactions and training programs and all that type of stuff. They just have terrible PR. It's
Right.
like automotive. It's like we have an incredible industry internally. We just have the worst PR.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that, the marketing team is like, it's the PR team for automotive. And if we can bring that up, then we're going to win. So,
Yeah, and it's interesting. You talked about kind of two hands. You have that OEM kind of brand, and then you're trying to create your local brand, and whatever that looks like. There's almost this third too, because as we look at consolidation in the industry, you have multiple OEMs, which to me supports the fact that having that local strategy and kind of owning your brand locally creates kind of another avenue to create some stickiness and glue with the consumers.
yeah. I mean, look at what like Lithia and Asbury
Yeah.
and companies like that are doing with, Driveway and Click Lane and stuff like that. They get it. And I think, you know, that can be done with single rooftop, small,
Oh yeah.
medium-sized groups. Maybe not at the scale of like a Driveway or Click Lane, but
Right.
at a unique way that serves the community in a central brand strategy.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Danny, what are your thoughts? This has been a great conversation with Kyle. We may have lost Danny in your audio there. Danny, let me try that again. All right. Well, Danny's going to give us some sign language. I can tell you what he's going to love. He's going to love kind of the focusing on your local brand. to create some stickiness and glue. Danny, give me a head nod if I was close. Is that close? Yeah, there you go. We got a thumbs up. So Kyle, thank you for kind of joining us today. I think I love your passion. I can feel your passion. I can feel your energy. I love your mission about kind of how do we get automotive to not be the butt of the joke when we're sitting there with our friends and family. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is probably, the social media platform that I'm at the most. Kyle at contagiousauto.com or contagiousauto.com. Please connect that way. And love to connect, network, and serve in any way that I can. And my whole thing is like, I just want to see us all rowing in the same direction together.
Yeah.
And if we can get more people doing that, then the boat's going to go a lot quicker. It's like whitewater rafting, right?
That's right.
So
that's right. Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. Whether you're a part of the bigger industry as a whole, whether you're on a showroom floor or just part of a dealer group, is how can you get all the oars in the water and in sync when you're rowing that boat. So, Kyle, again, this has been great. We'll make sure to link to your contact information in this episode, and then be sure to share this episode for our listeners out there with your friends. Like it, and if you want other topics or other interesting automotive people, please let us know and we'll get them on the podcast. So thank you very much, and we'll talk soon.